Okay, so welcome back to Mr. Montier's English class. This video today we're going to be talking a little bit about Call of the Wild, first chapter 2 in Call of the Wild, in preparation for our next unit with that for my 7th grade English class. Your first chapter in Call of the Wild, it's labeled, let me get the name right, Into the Primitive. And Call of the Wild is a book where, interestingly enough, you're not following a person. The protagonist, Buck, is a dog who is living a very cushy life in a very wealthy manner in Central California. I want to say it's Central. And he gets kidnapped because he's a very large dog. And sold by the gardener there. He steals him and sells him off to pay some gambling debt. And he goes through this series of mishandling owners on his way north to Alaska. The background here, and that's part of the exposition, okay? This whole first chapter is exposition or intro to the book. It's kind of establishing things. It's letting you know it's the 1890s. The gold rush in Alaska is huge. And they need sled dogs. And there's a shortage of them up in Alaska. And so they're buying dogs at a very expensive price from the South Country and getting them sent up. But they want dogs that can survive. And so they're looking for big, thick-furred dogs. And Buck is one of these. He's part St. Bernard and I don't remember if it's Mastiff or Great Dane, something like that he's part. And he's huge, he's hairy, and so he gets kidnapped and sent up north to pull a sled. In the second chapter, it's called The Law of the Club and the Fang. He gets mishandled, especially by the modern concepts of animal treatment. But at the time, that was pretty typical, a way of breaking the spirit of a dog. He gets sent to a person whose job it is to break dogs of their spirit, and then he gets purchased by a Canadian who runs the mail through Canada. That was, not Canada, Alaska. That was part of their job at the time. These sled dogs were used to haul the mail through Alaska and up in the Yukon Territory. And so he gets taken up there, and he gets introduced to some very terrifying events, some very not nice dogs to him. But these terrifying events seal in his mind the necessity to adapt, to overcome. And so he follows his instincts. And that's what Call of the Wild is a reference to instinct. He follows his instincts to adapt and overcome, and he in chapter 2, he meets one of his main antagonists, not the antagonist of the story, but one of them, by a dog by the name of Spitz, and we'll see how that plays out in chapter 3. But around the end of chapter 1, into chapter 2, we move from exposition, which is our introduction with chapter 1. We move into the rising action going along up here in the story. Chapter 2 is where things begin to pick up. We know Buck, we know what's going on. Our setting's Alaska. And it's definitely in a territorial phase. It's definitely in a very fairly lawless phase, very Old West. This book was written in the 1890s. It was written when Alaska was one of the last great frontiers. This was written, a lot of books like this existed as a way for people to experience locations they could never travel to. And it fulfilled that need. It gave people a sense of Alaska without ever really being able to go there. So that's kind of what's going on with the book, what's going on in chapter 1, chapter 2. Hopefully this kind of quick summary gives you an idea of what to look for as you do your reading. We'll catch you later when we review the next chapter.